Welcome to NovoEDTalks, a podcast for authentic, honest conversations about talent development and the people shaping it. On this show, we sit down with leaders across learning and development, mentorship, leadership development, HR, and people strategy to talk about what's really working, what's changing, and what they're learning along the way. These aren't surface-level interviews. They're candid conversations about building skills, developing leaders, supporting managers, and creating experiences that actually move organizations forward. Before we jump in, a quick word about NovoEd. Founded at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab in 2012, NovoEd is a people-centric talent development platform built for enterprises and training providers. Business transformation starts with people, and people perform better on NovoEd. In today's fast-changing landscape, upskilling requires a new approach. NovoEd makes it easy to move beyond the talent development status quo by combing social, collaborative, cohort-based learning with real-world application. The result is future-ready talent built on a platform designed to turn learning into measurable impact. Now, let's meet our guests for today's NovoEDTalks episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast, a space for talent development trailblazers to get real. My name is Melissa Fisk. I'm the producer of the NovoEDTalks podcast, and today I am joined by Sonia Overstreet, who is a Learning and Development Director at LEADEC. Sonia is a Learning and Development Director and Certified Performance Technologist with 20 plus years of experience in engineering, performance improvement, and workplace learning. Throughout her career, Sonia has managed the development of technical training across industries. She has implemented learning and development strategies to build employee skills, foster organizational knowledge management, and improve organizational performance. Sonia holds a Master of Science in Instructional Design and Performance Technology. Sonia, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm excited about our conversation today.
Awesome. Well, why don't you start by just kind of introducing yourself a little bit further and talking about your role in your company?
All right. So, as you mentioned, I'm a Learning and Development Director with LEADEC. I lead the learning and development efforts across North America, U.S. and Canada, and I support our leaders and our frontline teams in a very operational and performance-driven environment, which is manufacturing. LEADEC is a global manufacturing services organization. We help factories run smoothly every day across the world. We are in 16 countries exactly, with about 25,000 plus employees worldwide.
Wow, that is, I'm sure, keeping you very busy.
Yeah. One of the things I always like to start with, I like to tell people my professional philosophy, and that's learning and development. It's not just training, it is performance improvement.
I love that, and so important, especially in today's world. Why don't you talk a little bit, Sonia, you mentioned you're responsible for North America, US and Canada, small little area. But why don't you talk about some of who your learners are and, what their biggest kind of challenges or pressures are that they're facing at the moment?
Sure. So in U.S. And Canada, I support a lot of our frontline employees. So we have in the North America region around 2,500 employees, and the majority of those employees are on site at the customers' facilities. So of course they're on site in those facilities, working day in and day out on the front lines. And we also have our corporate employees, which most of us work remotely from home. We do have a North America headquarters in Cincinnati. But I think some of our employees go in a couple of days a week, but most of us are either remote, and the bulk of our frontline workers are on site in the customer's location. So these are manufacturing facilities in aerospace, automotive, white goods, all over. We're there.
Wow, that's incredible. So many different diverse groups that you're working with there and just the way that they're learning and the
Mhm.
day-to-day what they're actually doing.
So some of our challenges, probably like everybody else in manufacturing, with the speed, we got to get things done fast. Pretty much it should have been done yesterday. Cost, safety is always important. That's one of our number one priorities. And just the constant change in manufacturing, those are the constraints that we have that we work with every day.
As you're navigating those challenges, obviously we think of, the ideal state. What's your ideal state of learning or talent development at your organization? And what does that actually look like in practice, especially, the uniqueness that is the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, so we've kind of visualized this over time, and what would be ideal for us is that for our employees, whether you're working on site with a customer, remotely from your home or somewhere that you're traveling, or even from our headquarters office in Cincinnati, the ideal state would be that there are zero barriers for you to connect with learning and development opportunities within the organization that will help you grow and develop in your career. So that means you can access training anytime you want with on demand learning. We would also have social learning cohorts, also on demand, such as LinkedIn Learning. We utilize that a lot, but also not taking away from the personal and interaction. We also want to have those face-to-face traditional learning opportunities and also hybrid opportunities where we can do some courses, some part of the course is online and then you meet face to face. So we really want the multiple access points for people and that there's zero barrier. They don't have to ask a bunch of questions. They don't have to get a lot of permission to access the opportunities for learning and development that we have within the organization. So, what that looks like, we're still trying to craft that. We're still building it. But one of the ways we're doing that is definitely offering more on demand opportunities. As I mentioned earlier, we use LinkedIn Learning a lot. Everybody's familiar with the LinkedIn platform. And of course, LinkedIn Learning, they can access that anytime that they want, anywhere, and they can learn anything that they want. So, it's not, they don't have to get permission from our L&D team or their manager. Just log into your account and start learning. That is one of the things that I was really excited that we were able to implement that. And then also having a variety of opportunities internally that we are offering. Virtual training, it'd be online. We have a lot of webinars, 1 hour webinars that our folks can participate in, face to face courses, of course, bringing them in to the Cincinnati office, or myself or our corporate trainer traveling to the site and training people that way as well. So we're building that. We still have a way to go, but we want to make sure that we can decrease the barriers for people to learn.
I love that. And I love it. You have like this mission statement around it, which I think is perfect. Zero barriers, right? That's great. So thinking about that, but where's the biggest gap between zero barriers and where the organization is now?
I think one of those things, which probably almost everybody in every industry can say, is finding the time, making sure that we have the time. And I always tell people, well, we either find the time to develop folks and train them so that they can do the job better, or we're going to spend the time correcting mistakes. So, which one do we want to do? So, it's really that finding the time. Everybody's busy. There are things on everybody's calendar, multiple meetings, multiple projects. So, really trying to find that time to get training in. And what we want to do with that to try to minimize our disruption in the flow of work, we want to design training that goes into the flow of work. So it's not a disruption that they don't have to come out of the work to do that. And we definitely implementing things through our learning management system with e-learning courses, also having very small 1 hour webinars where people can come in, learn stuff, and then take it away. And the biggest thing about that is making sure that the time that people spend in training, in the learning event, that it's beneficial for them. People will spend the time if they're walking away with techniques and concepts and tools that are relevant to their job and is going to help them get better.
Absolutely. I think that's so important. People tend to make time for the things that matter, right? And if they know that there's going to be a benefit, they'll absolutely do that. How are you designing learning experiences? You mentioned a little bit ago, you have all kinds of these different approaches to learning, even having someone you said, their your corporate learning, I can't remember what you called them, fly out to kind of do some teachings on site. But how are you designing these learning experiences to make sure that the learning, the content, like, actually sticks and that learners are actually engaged?
So, one of the things, and this also goes back to my professional philosophy, that learning and development is not just training, it's performance improvement. So, when we're designing our training, we're looking at what is the improvement that we want to see, that change in behavior after the training. So when we're asked to support some of our teams with training, we first talk to them and do a needs analysis, because what we want to do is we want to dive deep into what is really going on in the business. Is it something that training the appropriate solution? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's clarification of goals, expectations. There's a lot of things, a lot of solutions that can close the gap. But when training is the solution, we do that needs analysis to make sure we're finding that out, and we pair the training with a business goal. So we don't want to create any training that is not going to move the business forward, whether it's moving a team forward, them learning new skills, or individuals, but it all has to go back into meeting a business goal. And for an example, one of the programs that we worked on, training programs, we supported our OpEx team, Operations Excellence team. So there was a corporate goal, a global goal that of cost savings, and it wasn't cost savings just by cutting jobs. It was cost savings through performance improvement. So when we connected with the OpEx team, of course, we did a needs analysis, and training was the necessary solution. And we launched the program in 2021, and the program is still running. So for 2021 to 2025, those 5 years, that program for just North America has saved the company well over $30 million. So you know training sticks when you're saving that much money over 5 years. And the way that we did that, the first year that we launched it, we made sure that we asked participants, what's going on at your site? What is an opportunity for improvement? What is the gap you see? What is the issue that you're struggling with? And so they had things that they can bring to the training. So I think at the time it was a 6-week program, and each week our OpEx team, Operations Excellence team, they trained on techniques, lean techniques, Six Sigma techniques, to to drive right to those different goals that each site had, different issues that they were facing. So by the time at the end of that 6 weeks, there either was a solution in place and we can collect KPIs for it, or a solution was in progress. So that was very relevant training that attacked a specific problem at each site. So with that, they were able to, by the end of the training, already have KPIs that they can show, cost savings that they can show. And it wasn't just, like I said, it wasn't cutting jobs. This was performance improvement at the site. So 5 years running, we're going into the 6th year this year, but over $30 million already saved. So when you're moving the business forward like that, you know that training's sticking.
Yeah, I'd say so. And wow, like I love that you have just, performance improvement baked into everything that you're doing because I think that's something that, anyone in L&D has to be able to prove to, the rest of the organization that this is beneficial. And I know that's where so many people struggle. So let's get into that a little bit. What signals tell you that that learners are besides obviously, the clear ROI there, as as these programs are going and ongoing, when they're in the programs, what's telling you that learners are truly engaged?
So a couple of things that we look at specifically is just like every company, we track a lot of stuff. So not just the participation or the signups, those are metrics that we look at as well. You know, who's signing up? Are people repeating signups for sessions? But we look at things like promotion rates. Are people being promoted after they take sessions? Are we having a greater number of participants in our learning opportunities? But one of the things that I am excited about and look for very specifically is our subject matter experts. Are they participating and not just signing up for sessions? Are they partner with us to develop relevant job specific content? So that's one of the clear metrics for me. And we have done, I think, a really good job over the years with that. We have programs specifically to highlight our subject matter experts who have knowledge within the company that I don't know. So I have my area of expertise, but at the site level, when we're having our team members do technical cleaning of these massive robots in the facilities. I don't have that expertise. They have that expertise. When they're doing maintenance on conveyor belts, I don't have that expertise. They have it. So we have implemented 3 programs, and all 3 of these programs are the training is facilitated by our subject matter experts. And we have had from 2024, we did what is called 5 tips from Lead X Best, and then also power hours. These are both 1 hour sessions. And then we've had multiple subject matter experts sign up to, we work with them to craft their session, make sure that the content meets, some clear instructional design principles, that it's being designed well, and they can present that content. And those 2 programs have been so successful. We're launching another one this year called Ops Talk Hour. This is operations focused content that would be delivered by our operations teams. And we have 5 people signed up so far, and the majority of those 4 are our regional managers. So that means that training, not only are we producing excellent content, just our L&D team individually, but we're also supporting our subject matter expert to really develop and present focused, relevant content to our population.
Absolutely. And you bring up, you bring me right into my next question, which is obviously in the space that you're in, there is a big need for very specific technical skills. How are you balancing kind of technical skills with what many are calling now durable or power skills? Things like judgment, discernment, decision making, adaptability. Like, how is your team thinking about kind of skills development and balancing it all with everything going on?
So that's really important, and I'm glad you didn't use the phrase soft skills because I've never liked that. I am so glad we're coming up with a better way to phrase that, because soft skills that never worked for me, because that always seem to be lesser skills than those technical skills, and it's really not. And the way that we approach this, for instance, we had some of our subject matter experts present, and this was one of their first time presenting to a large group of their peers. And the way that we went through the design process, we want to make sure that they have their their ideas will scale. It's not just an idea for a single site, that they can scale across the organization, and a lot more people can benefit from that. And then we walk them through the basics of instructional design, just to make sure that we have those adult learning theories, instructional design theories in there. And when it comes to those durable or professional skills that we kind of bake into that, uh, we help them connect the dots. So they have that technical expertise, but some of those durable skills that you mentioned, that it is presentation skills, it is facilitation skills, facilitation skills, and it also those analytical skills and data mining, and then critical thinking, and there's just the workflow of how you put a presentation together. And some of those things people think is just natural for folks, and it's not. So when we work with our subject matter experts as they're going through their technical content, we're walking them through some of those other durable skills. And then at the end of that, we're asking them, so this is the way that you were going to present the presentation. And we've had them, like, those light bulb moments, like, oh my goodness, yes, I didn't have I was going to put all of my content on one PowerPoint slide and that was it. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. And so we kind of bake that into when we're working with our subject matter experts, and then pulling out those specific points to help them connect the dots, that those durable skills like discernment, what should I put in? What is the audience that I'm presenting to? If I'm presenting to more of the executive team, then my content needs to be developed a little bit different way. I have all the data, but the way that I summarize that will be different for executive management team or novice population that I'm presenting to. So we help them connect the dots to those durable skills, so that when they are presenting those technical concepts, they can come across more easily to folks to consume.
I love that, and I think that's so important because, when we do something, we're so close to it, and we think it's just like, "Oh, duh, like, that's how everyone else thinks," and, like, "So, I'll teach it this way, and they'll understand it," and that couldn't be further from the truth, but that's so hard to, learn how to do. So I love that you're doing that partnership with folks who are the expert matters and kind of, like, coaching them through doing it. It's awesome.
It really is hard for to do, especially as a subject matter expert. You have so much knowledge and you wanna give it, but you can't give it all in an hour. And it has to be formatted in a way that the audience can consume it and take away those points, and that's why when we built our subject matter experts, those training opportunities, like 5 tips from Lead X Best. That's 5 tips. Just give them 5
Yeah.
tips. So we'll take all this big knowledge, kinda condense it, kinda narrow it down to those really important things that they wanna get across in an hour, and the power hour is a little bit more expansive, but we really stick to that, and we help them document the topics they're gonna talk about, and not just that, we have the business goal. We have them state the business goal of it, and then the objectives of that course so that they can stay on track. So we're building in not only they have that technical knowledge, but how to facilitate that and present that virtually because most of them are doing it virtually. And then what are those skills to help you do that? Those durable, those career development, career navigation skills to help you do that, like critical thinking, workflow, presentation, facilitation skills.
Skills. Speaking of skills, shifting gears a little bit here to AI and how, we think about, approaching AI and, how do we develop skills for AI? Is AI part of your learning strategy today? And if so, where are you seeing the most value?
Yes, so AI is. So we're doing things at a global level from AI. Just this earlier this year, we launched I believe it was a 6-week course on AI, particularly Copilot, because we all have Copilot here at work. So that was a 6-week course that we went through. It was self-paced, but you can also meet online, and that was one of the global initiatives. So globally, we have several AI initiatives, and then locally or regionally, we have some initiatives as well. So our team uses it, and we help train other teams to use it. We really focus on Copilot because we all have access to that, but there are other opportunities for AI development. And actually, in next week, we're doing what we call LEADEC Learning Week, and that's a learning week across the globe. So every region will be learning that week. And so we have some global initiatives, those AI courses, uh, webinars that will be that you can sign up for. I've signed up for some. So not only AI, just training AI, but also using AI in the business is really big as well. And I know that our global team has launched a platform for us to suggest things for AI, things that we can do with AI. I'm working on some things with some opportunities for us to also integrate AI. But how my team, our L&D team actually uses it, AI, we use a lot for brainstorming because that can help us, generate a lot of ideas, a lot of unique ideas that we didn't think of before, and it's easier to really come up with different things when you're not starting with a blank sheet of paper. So we definitely use AI in the integration of ideas. It helps a lot with developing, coming up with custom images, custom logos. One of the things that I am really passionate about as far outside of L&D, but connecting it with L&D is making sure that our branding of our team is tight, the marketing of our events is tight. And so AI, we use that a lot with developing logos and imagery for a lot of our content.
That's awesome. And how are you think I love that you said, you're using it for brainstorming. That's an important, like, distinction there because I think, it is a good starting point, but it's not necessarily the quality isn't always there, right? So how are you thinking about kind of the trade-offs between efficiency and quality when it comes to AI?
One of the things I kind of I say is I don't trust artificial ingredients in my food. So I'm not going to trust every artificial thing an AI bot gives me.
I love that. That's a good, analogy for people to think about.
If you don't trust artificial ingredients in your food, don't trust everything an AI bot gives you because the A is artificial. So that's one of the things that I am very cautious of. And then globally, doing some of our e-learning courses and content and training, they really want to make sure that we understand that AI is just it's AI generated things, and some of those things are real and some of those things are not real. So that's why we're using it in a specific way for our team. We're not using it to generate all of our content because I have done some tests on with AI, and those things are incorrect, and it can give incorrect citations and all of those things. So what we do is particularly like I know one of the programs that we were working on is Principles of Manufacturing Management. So those are courses at universities. So we know that. So what we use AI for is to help take all of those different curricula and kind of narrow it down because we know that we can see different universities have all different curricula. So help us narrow it down so that we can focus on the thing that makes sense for our business. So we know the curriculums are true. You know, these universities have them. The content, the titles of the courses are true. The foundations are true. We just need a way to synthesize all that data so that we're not looking from one university to one university and comparing that ourselves. So that's a way that we use it to take what we know is actual real data and help us summarize that data. And again, with the brainstorming and then also just kind of looking up things and also verifying it. But you always, always want to verify that. So we're not going to sacrifice quality for the speed of AI. I'm just not going to do that. And I think too often we all of us can get answers from AI, but it takes human beings to be able to discern whether that is correct or not, whether that makes sense or not, whether that fits in the scenario that you want that you're looking for an answer for. Because sometimes it will give you like really crazy answers and they don't fit the situation that you're facing. And AI cannot navigate all the change that goes on within an organization. It can give you an answer, but if we're doing a training course for 60, 50 people, that's how many different perspectives that you have. AI is going to come up with one solution, and that's not going that one size fits all doesn't work. So you want to make sure that you're validating those things and that you understand that it's always AI, artificial, it's not human intelligence. And human intelligence will be AI any day of the week as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. What you're explaining is a very like this concept of black and white, like versus gray, like right, like you just said, like not 50 different individuals who are going to have 50 different perspectives on that. That makes room for a lot of gray things, but AI is always going to try and give you a black or white, like this or that. I feel like it wants to give you an answer, but it's like, hey, we need to make room for the gray a little bit here.
And that's the way it's incumbent upon the learning and development team to look at that. So let's say if you did get a right answer from AI, AI can give you a correct answer. How do you implement that into a learning program? Because I can give the right answer, but how it hits different groups of people can be different. So how do you take that right answer and fit it for a virtual training versus face to face? Or maybe you're doing an e-learning course, or maybe you want to also use some job aids. So there's multiple ways of doing that, and AI can't give you that. It will give you some of these static things, and it's up to you as the learning and development team, as the leader or trainer, to be able to take that and make sure that it's going out in the best possible way, in the best delivery method, the best tone, the best visuals. AI can give you suggestions or it can make up stuff, but you have to be able to know how to implement and apply adult learning theory, instructional design processes to make sure that that comes across and that it hits the audience well and change happens. That you have to get that behavioral change. If you don't see change in the business, then learning didn't happen. So you want to make sure that whatever you get from AI, that you're looking at that with clear eyes and a critical eye and with the expertise that you have to be able to use that effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. What you're describing are some really great guardrails and kind of principles that your organization has for using AI. Do you have any of this kind of like standardized or formalized, like these guardrails that you make sure everyone in the organization understands? Because I think that's something that comes up a lot right now. It's like, the leaders in this space are like, okay, we know we have to have these guardrails and design principles, but how do we distribute them like to the entire organization so that everyone's on the same page about them?
Yes, so globally, we do have guardrails. We do have policies and procedures that we've launched at the global level. And doing these global initiatives, like the initiative that I spoke about that happened earlier this year with learning Copilot from beginners and doing LEADEC Learning Week, we're also having some training. And these trainings go on throughout the year. And then we have compliance courses that focus specifically on AI, the privacy around AI, the usage of AI, what you should and should not be uploading to Copilot, and then also how to detect whether something is AI generated, if it's AI generated or if that's a true image. So we do have a lot of guardrails and actual training around those.
Kind of switching gears a little bit here, Sonia. As you look to the next few years, what do you believe L&D leaders need to unlearn and what do they need to double down on?
So one of the things that I believe learning and development professionals need to unlearn is the belief that they are purely a support function for the organization. L&D, we don't have to be the perpetual sidekick to the main show. So one of the things I think that we really need to double down on is not just being L&D professionals, but be business leaders within our organization. That we need to be putting ourselves in the position to shape business solutions and not just deliver and to deliver tangible business results and not just be given a solution to execute. We need to be there helping to shape these business solutions. And that's one of the things that I am really adamant on is that L&D professionals, we're not just support functions. We can be business leaders in the organization, shaping business goals, shaping solutions, and then executing on those, and not just be given a solution to execute.
I love that. I love this theme that's come through in this interview is just, tying L&D to performance improvement. I think so important and there does need to be a shift into not just like a connection there, but like really have it be a driving force. And I love that.
Yeah, and if you look at it, we can do that because what how do businesses run? They run on people. So if you number one, if you don't have the people, or if you have the people and they don't have the skills, they don't have the knowledge and ability, you're not going to be a successful organization. So if there's something going on in the business, whether there's a high turnover, L&D can partner with talent acquisition. Okay, so we have high turnover. What's going on there? Are the teams not being trained at the site level? Is what's going on with the induction or new hire orientation? Can L&D support that? How can we partner with that? If it's something going back to my example before with our operations excellence team, that was a global initiative. They needed to have some cost savings. That was on the operations side. But they said, okay, Sonia, how can can you help do this? Yes, we can support that. Let's look at what those business goals are. Let's track how our sites are performing. First, let's have them, not just call them out to training and have them come and sit in a conference room or even on a webinar. Let's get some input from them. What's going on at your site? What do you want to fix at your site? Okay, we can help you do that. We can support that effort. How do we support that effort with relevant content? So we all as L&D professionals, as business leaders in the organization, we can partner with our other peers in the organization and say, okay, what's the business goal behind this? What do we want to do better? What do we want to stop doing? What do we want to start doing so that we're moving this business forward? And L&D, we can talk that talk. We need to make sure that we're talking in terms of measurable results, performance improvement, dollars saved, even in our industry with the safety, lives saved, you know, incidents missed. We have a lot of KPI that we can help drive as L&D and business leaders.
I love that, and it's so important, nowadays for everyone to be thinking in those terms, like, let's move beyond just the box checking, right? Let's, like, really be engaged with this, so that's so powerful. Thank you, Sonia. To close out our interview today, what's one lesson that you've learned as an L&D leader that you wish you'd learned earlier in your career?
So, one of the things that I wish I had learned earlier is not to be overly frustrated with the no. Meaning when you have an idea and it's a no to that project or no to going forward with that idea, don't get overly frustrated because what I have personally experienced uh, multiple times is that maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I had an idea for learning and development to do. I don't know whether it was one of the things was to do a digital magazine. I got a no from another organization, but I kept that idea in my back pocket. And that has been one of the biggest drivers now for marketing our team and branding our team is our digital magazine. It's not a newsletter, it is a digital magazine. So it goes out, it's a digital flip book, it has links, images, content. And so, got to know several years ago at another place I was working, kept that idea and implemented it. There's been multiple um, examples I can cite multiple examples of that is don't get overly frustrated with the no because there's a time and a place. And even when I and the thing about it, even when I got that no at another place, it wasn't a vindictive no. So when the time is right, then you can launch your idea, your program or whatever. So always keep, even if you get a no somewhere, keep those ideas in your back pocket because if it's a good idea, you can use it somewhere else or you can use it in your organization when the times change. So definitely don't get overly frustrated with the no.
I love that. That's so beautifully put. And it actually reminds me of, parenting my little kids right now. I've been trying not to say no to them so much, but instead say, not right now. We're not going to do that right now. So I love that. I think that's such a powerful, don't get frustrated with enough, such a powerful message and can really be applied outside of learning and development, really to life and as well.
It really can with your career, because I know some people have been turned down, maybe you've been looked over for a promotion, all kinds of stuff. Just don't get frustrated with the no. Keep plugging away at it and just keep those ideas in your back pocket. And if, like I said, if it's a good idea, if it's workable, there you will get a yes sooner or later.
Sonia, thank you so much for joining us on the NovoEd Talks podcast today. It was an absolute pleasure having you here with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. Thank you for the invitation. And anytime, I love having L&D conversations.
So do we. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of NovoEd Talks.